I wanted to take just a moment to talk about and to think about why it is that conservatives support certain individuals. Some of my examples would be people like Rush Limbaugh, Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman, Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, and I can certainly think of a number of other individuals, some of them farther in the past, some of them more to the present. But the question is, what makes these folks so doggone alluring to conservatives? Hello and welcome to the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Wednesday, the 24th of February of 2021. Welcome to my little video that I'm doing and whatever else it happens to end up being, whether you're visiting me from Rumble, the podcast, or YouTube. Thank you for coming along. And the subject of today's little video is put 'em up, and you'll have to allow me to explain what I mean by that. So basically what I'm saying is this. I say that a lot, I've noticed. And I think probably you've noticed that too if you've been watching my videos. That's something that I say a lot. Mostly I'm saying, yeah, you probably get that. That all being said, though, here's the thing. I use the title Put 'em Up because what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to cite for me who you count people of weight, of gravity, of significance, of importance, and why. And I wanted to put up some people who I view in that sort of light. And I wanted to sort of explain why I, and probably many other conservatives, hold as we do. Most of you know the name Rush Limbaugh. Many of you probably know that he passed away recently at the age of 70, as far as I understand it. The conservative movement, people on somewhat to the right, are certainly missing him by this point already. He's done so much for so many people. But I wanted to say a few things about Rush. And I've said a lot of this before, but I sort of want to encapsulate this all into one place. Not just Rush, but some others, but Rush is the one that I'll start with. Rush was far from perfect. There are a lot of things that Rush did wrong. He was very incendiary. I always forget incendiary. I always forget exactly how to pronounce that because I spell it wrong in my head. Anyway, when he was younger, and in certain regards, it can be argued that he stayed that way as he got older. And some of the things that he said were probably not all that, quote, politically correct. And that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying it's what I prefer, but it is what it is. But the couple of questions I ask myself about Mr. Limbaugh are, one, was a large portion of what he had to say at least something to think about, if not correct? And the answer to that largely is yes. Yes, I think a large amount of what he had to say was at least something for you to sink your teeth into and consider, if not just plain correct. Going to another individual, Thomas Sowell, another one who was in my list of people that I pay attention to. And by the way, there are any number of people that's true for. He just happens to be one that I've paid attention to for a very long time. For those of you who don't know, Thomas Sowell is an economics professor who's a prolific writer. He's a man of common sense. He came from what many would consider humble beginnings. He is, I believe, Dr. Thomas Sowell, if you want to credit him that way. He's a PhD, I think, so not obviously an MD. But the point is, I can look at a man like Thomas Sowell and I can ask myself this question. Is what Thomas Sowell says meaningful and reasonable? Does that mean I have to agree with everything he says? No, it doesn't mean that. Does that mean that Mr. Sowell says, is again a perfect human being and therefore says everything right and does everything right? No, it doesn't mean that. But the thing of it is, I find so much of what he has to say compelling and different from, as it were, the party line that I tend to pay him attention. And I'm going to go a step further. Mr. Sowell will say things that are very pie in the sky at times, but he'll almost always back those things up with just plain reality. Look, here's the use case. Here's the situation where it really becomes known that this is true. Milton Friedman, another one, right? Milton spent years trying to get people to understand in what amounts to a very conversational, if sort of caustic at times style, where they were confused where economics was concerned. Do I believe Milton Friedman had everything about economics right? No, I don't. But on the other hand, I do believe he not only had a lot on economics right, but he understood human nature well. Samuel Alito, Clarence Thomas, and there was one other in that vein who I can't think who it was at the moment, who passed recently. Supreme Court justices, right? I don't know if you've heard some of the stuff that Clarence Thomas has written, but the fact is, not only does he get to the root of things, but he writes in ways that common folks can understand. He doesn't feel the need to be high-minded or, look haughty or anything like that. And by the way, this is true for most of these guys, right? Even the guys that I don't like as much. When I talk about folks like Sean Hannity, who I like, okay, he's all right. When I talk about people like Mark Levin, who I think is far too caustic a lot of times for his own good. Though I think he says a lot of very important stuff, and I think he's historically extremely accurate. I think there are some things that he and I disagree on, and that's fine too. That's part of the point, is we're allowed to disagree with one another, and we do. And there are a number of people in that vein. I'm not a great fan these days of Ben Shapiro and much of the crew that he hangs with by this point, and I could go into the details of that, but I don't think I need to. Nonetheless, I respect Mr. Shapiro for all he has done, which at his young age is a whole lot more than a lot of the stuff that I've managed. So that's the thing to be said. But the point is that the thing that keeps me hanging on in terms of paying attention to a lot of these people is that over and over again, I see them to be people who are working to make the world more understandable to those around them. And they're trying not just to understand their given field of endeavor, but more importantly, how humans operate. And that's a really important thing. It's a really important thing to know how your neighbors are going to act when you do things. It's a really important thing to know when you pull out on the road what's going to happen when you pull out in front of somebody, how they're going to react, whether or not they're going to react well or badly or whatever, right? All of these things are important, and all of these people, in my opinion, try to again, consider these things when they talk about the things that they talk about. They don't just talk about their fields of expertise. They talk about human nature and how human nature relates to what it is that they're saying. And this is very, very, very significant, okay? But the thing is, I'm not saying that there's nobody on the left that I can say similar things about. I am saying that there are very few people who I look at in those terms. Very few on the left. Because there's a tendency for them to believe in things, in my opinion, and those things that they believe in, a lot of times I look at and go, nope, I don't agree with that. No, I don't believe in that. And that's obviously the biggest reason for anybody to hold with anybody else on what they believe, is I agree with it or I don't. Now, one of the things that I think these guys do that is very important is they work to convince people, to get people to understand why they believe what it is that they believe. That's very important. That's very significant, right? So I'm not sitting here saying that I just believe them. At times I've been convinced of things by people. At times people have tried to say things, and in the process of doing so, they've proven to me that I'm not convinced that those things are correct or true. And that's happened with every one of these guys, whether it's Limbaugh, whether it's Mr. Limbaugh, whether it's Mr. Sowell, whether it's Clarence Thomas, whoever it happens to be. You need to know that I've been convinced for and against what it is that they support at various times. Some of them less against, some of them more so, some of them less for, some of them more so. And that's just how that is. Okay, so here I am coming up on my time, and again, I'm going to try and keep myself to about 10 minutes, so I'm going to try and call this good. We are, again, having reasonably good weather here, and I hope you're doing likewise. I hope that your time is good, that things are going well for you. They seem to be going okay for me, a little bit quiet at the moment, and that's fine. In the course of time, I'm quite sure things will roll back around and become busy again. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and let things roll on along and try and do the best that I can. I hope that you will do likewise. I hope you'll have a great day. I'm going to try and get another daily summation out on the Thursday, the 25th of February 2021, and hopefully you'll get a chance to look at that. That is to say, hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video is recorded on Wednesday, the 24th of February of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.